All right, well, we'll go ahead. I was thinking, but if nobody shows up, I'm going to record this anyway, and at least we'll have it out there for folks to have if they need to. And I'm going to kind of start here at the beginning. Let's see. Here we go. Share right there. Okay. That's large enough you can see it this time.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm really starting kind of at the beginning. Some of this stuff is probably by this point, I think both you guys are Middle Tennessee, so should be water under the bridge, but I say it's for future folks. And some of this I have to admit, Jeff learned the hard way, and that's why it's on here. Did you order transportation? I know, but yes, and that wasn't CPA, but there was once that I tried to turn all my fall bus forms in at the same time and really get a jump on things. And I neglected to put any times on a marching band contest one Saturday. So we were there, kids were there, we were all packed up, ready to go. And couldn't figure out why the buses weren't there. But luckily I had the cell phone of my lead bus driver. I called her and she said, well, there's nothing on there. But she made a few little calls for me, and in about 45 minutes we had buses. But yeah, make sure that you've got transportation. As dumb as that sounds, and I know everybody's school system has a unique way of dealing with that, and some of them are really nerdy about the forms, and so you got to get those things in on time. But bus list and forms, have you got the permission slips done to the parents? Let them know that their children are going somewhere. That's always important, and sometimes something, the busier we get, we tend to even forget. Have you also gotten that information to the administration and to their teachers? You know, we like to know that the Model UN is going to be gone on a day, so we can kind of plan rehearsal for something like that. So same time, you know, it's good to let them know that these children are going to be gone, and hopefully, you know, not the day of or the day before, but maybe the week before or so, that they can kind of make plans. And most of them will, if they get in the habit of doing things like that. Don't forget to take roll before you go. That I would always get all the students in the band room and seated and with their instruments, and we'll kind of go through that in a second. But I've had kids that forgot, or they had the teacher that didn't want them to leave just yet. We, you know, had to go get them. Oh, they're sitting in class, and well, Miss So-and-so said they weren't going to leave until 1, and we needed them at 12:45. So, you know, make sure everybody's there and that you can track them down, especially those that might even be in school. Again, moving on down, medical forms. I know that became a big deal with us in Sumner County. We had not just a form saying they could go, but a form, you know, in case anything happened, that we had a medical release statement. From marching band stuff, we did those in the fall, and we just kept them. And any kids that were just in the concert band, we added those to the mix. And not too often, but occasionally, you know, you have to use those things. But good to have those. And also, since you're going to be, you know, these things happen during the day, are there medications or something where, I admit, on trail, are there things that, you know, they have to take at lunchtime, and you're going to be on stage at what their normal lunchtime is? So you've kind of made preparation for things like that. And even though this isn't an overnight trip, just knowing about some situations can save you a world of hurt sometime. At some point in life, feel free to ask me about the time I took the band to Hollywood and Los Angeles, and and parents didn't want me to know that their daughter had been under extreme psychiatric care for about a month and was having some issues, and we got to learn about those after a plane flight in Los Angeles, and that was quite exciting for all of us. So yeah, nothing probably to that extent on just a day trip, but just a thing to always know that what's going on with students if there's anything you do need to know about. And the only reason I put diet restrictions is, now we've got folks that have allergies to this and that, and make sure that you're not going anywhere that might cause a problem. You got the chaperones worked out. How many are you going to have on each bus? I know some school systems have a minimum number. Ours was, we had to have one adult for every 10 students. So you have that all worked out. And do those people require any clearance paperwork? And do they know what you expect of them? And we can kind of get into that as we go on. These are pretty easy trips, but we're going to have them keep up with some things. Call roll. What do you want the chaperones to do? What are you wearing? First, the students. Make sure you've told them way before and have some sort of preparations for that kid that just forgot, or maybe they don't have it, or they show up in blue jeans and a t-shirt and they say, that's all I got. Well, what have you got for them? Are you prepared to have, I always kept a drawer in a file drawer at school. I had about 4 different sizes of black button-down shirts that I got at like Walmart over the years, and then just some black pants, just in case somebody showed up with something, just that they had something, and that wasn't their excuse because maybe they didn't have what they needed, or they just forgot and didn't have a way to get it there. But not that ever happens. But also, are they going to get dressed at school, or are they going to come that way from home? I know with high school kids, sometimes that's a big deal. They don't want to wear their concert black. Of course, some of them do. They don't mind doing that to first period, second period. But some of them, they just can't stand that. They've got to be cool in first 2 classes, and are they going to have time to get dressed? Just things like that with what they're wearing. It's as long as it's communicated and kind of make, a plan B there for the students. And then what are you wearing? Now, I put this mainly on here because I got chastised once by the late, great Dr. Wayne Pegram. He was Tennessee Tech, and he was judging. And I wore this black and white kind of herringbone checked sport coat, which under normal circumstances looked rather okay. But he told me after we were finished that it was really blurry and I looked like a big dandelion bouncing across the stage in it. So never to wear that again. Think about things like that. But what does it look like from the back? Tennis shoes and flip-flops. Joanne Hood will crucify someone if they come on stage in sandals, especially ladies. She will just, she'll have a field day. So, what kind of, and I have actually judged a band one time, and the band director had on a coat and tie and Converse tennis shoes, and the kids didn't. Kids all had on concert black. So, what kind of statement was he trying to make? I'm not sure, but it's not that that's a final thing, but you want to look professional. And we have people that some of them do suits, they do tuxedos, they do any pantsuits, dresses, all sorts of different versions. My thing was that I always kind of wanted to not match, but be in the same vein as the students. So if I were doing a middle school band and they had on khakis and polo shirts, for me to be in a tuxedo might look a little bit out of place. Maybe just a suit and tie, something like that. But if the kids, and I have seen, especially middle school bands sometimes in blue jeans and polo shirts, which is fine, but I would suggest that the director not wear blue jeans and polo shirt to, in that extreme. But, think about what you're wearing. And also remember that if you're going to change clothes at school, that you remember things like black socks and a belt. I've forgotten those on my own before. So making sure you take care of all the students, and sometimes we forget to take care of ourselves. When are we going to eat? That was always the question. You go pass out, you go all over the details. This is the information sheet. This is what we're doing. And the hand goes up. When are we going to eat? And I've forgotten to put that in sometime, especially when you think about a lot of the schedules with this type thing. You're going to either be on the road or maybe on stage right around lunchtime, especially compared to where the kids normally eat lunch in schools. So when are they going to do it this time? Are they going to eat before they go? Are they going to eat after you play? Are they going to eat there at the school? Is there a place to eat at the school, or are there concessions there? And if you've got a huge group, are they going to be able to handle that many people? How many, if they're going off campus, if you're driving them to a string of fast food restaurants, it's always good to kind of look on the internet and find one or two in that general area and say, hey, we're going to be bringing a couple bus loads. Expect kids to be there. Always, when you're going somewhere, before they get off the bus, make sure that you give them instructions before they get off the bus, and time to get back. Where can we cross the street? It doesn't matter if there's 50 fast food places on one side of the road and a Taco Bell on the other side. Can we go to Taco Bell? No, don't cross the 6-lane interstate to get there, please. They'll ask, and if they don't ask, just kind of look ahead of those situations. Nowadays, it's a little easier to know what's in the general area. With a quick Google search of interstates and things like that, you can find that information out a lot easier than just driving up and hoping for the best. And at the bottom, always take roll before leaving the food stop. I left the roll to a student one time, and this was actually a jazz band trip, so there weren't that many. There weren't that many students to count. And I'll never forget, it was in Lebanon. We'd gone to Cumberland University to a jazz festival. We were actually driving down Lebanon Road, and somebody said, who's that running after the bus? Oh, that was 3 of the students that were, they said, I think they're on here. Take roll before you leave. Always take roll before you leave. Music, a system for getting it there, regardless of the level of the students. I would suggest not leaving that up to them to take their own. Something goofy will happen. I don't know. I don't think any of you all were there, but several years ago, I think it was Steve and Marion Coleman. I think it was when they were at Tullahoma. They had a piece of music, and they were going. And the festival was MTSU, and were going onto the stage, and a French horn player dropped their folder. And part of the music, I mean, you couldn't do this if you tried, but there was just a small gap between the main part of the stage and the orchestra pit level that was raised, and it fell in the crack in between there. And they tried for 30 minutes to get it out. When they finally did, it was covered in like oil and muck from underneath the stage and pretty much unreadable. So something dumb can always happen. But if you've got an extra part, good, carry the originals if you can. And what I always did was I'd have a system to do that the last rehearsal, or actually before we got on the bus. We'd have like 2 big snare drum, marching snare drum cases. Everybody on the clarinet section, pass your music in order to first chair clarinet. And they put all the clarinet stuff in one folder, and we put those folders in the box. There's been other times that we take the folders up in order so that they're easy to pass back out when we get there. But always making sure that all of the music was in one place. And I used to be real nerdy about that. I made sure the instrument or that music got on the bus. I figured if it got left behind, that way it was definitely my fault and I wouldn't be screaming at a kid. Back in the olden days, and I do mean olden days, there was a band from Chattanooga that came up to MTSBOA, and it was at Belmont University, and they forgot, or some student forgot a piece, and it was not one that was in everybody's library. So they were trying to find it. Nobody around had it. This one part that they needed, and they ended up calling back home and having them fax pages. Yes, this was when fax machines were first invented, and they faxed the music to Belmont University Library and then brought it over. But that took quite some time because those old fax machines were slow. But just don't rely that, oh, they're responsible, they're in my top group. They'll forget. Somebody will forget, and it may not be the ones that you would expect them to forget. So if you got some way to take all that up, get an extra folder just for this occasion if you can. I mean, music stores will provide them for you, and just label each. Here's the clarinet folder, pass those out. Here's the flute folder, pass those out. And then when you're finished with them, when you get back in the sight reading room after that, or before they start packing up everything to put back on the bus, take them back up. That way everything gets there. I've also had, you got back home and you're taking music up, and well, where's this part? Oh, I think we left it on stage. Okay, well, it gets there, it gets back. There's some ways to do that. Setup charts, they're really pretty good with MTSBOA about asking you for those a week or so before. But have a copy of that with you. And even though they will have a setup crew normally, give one to your percussionist usually. If you've got somebody else that's going with you, another director, student teacher, that's a good thing for them to also help with. And they will ask for the percussion to come out early from the warm-up area to assist with that. And make sure that your percussion, at whatever level they are, put the instruments wherever you're used to having them. If you're used to looking at the band and the timpani are on your right, but on this stage, the last group had them on the left, tell them to move them. Okay, so you want everything to look like it does in your normal rehearsal area. And that's what they're going out early for to do, not just set up chairs and stands, but to make sure that the stage is going to look like they're used to, so it doesn't freak them out. Speaking of percussion equipment, where'd it go? What do you need to take and how? I've gotten, unfortunately, to the day of, and we don't have we don't have a case for that drum. I'm glad I know that now. But how are you going to take those percussion instruments, or especially a lot of the smaller things that you might have to take? Do you have stick bags for the sticks and mallets? Things like stands for snare drum, cymbal stands, things like that. Those are usually not provided. And I have unfortunately gotten to the places and we've got the snare drum. We don't have anything to put it on. Same with cymbals. Well, we have a cymbal stand. Oh, they don't have a cymbal stand, and they're used to putting them on that for, that's sort of their routine there. And so make sure that that's things like that are that you're carrying, and that you have a way to get them there. Whether it be cases from marching band, old drum cases from old beginner snare drums, duffel bags, whatever, that you have a way to get all of that stuff there, and think about that beforehand. Double check sticks and mallets. I had 2 all-state percussionists forget sticks. Yes, so it can happen to even the most responsible and talented one. They did come up with some things, but I'm not sure. I didn't ask questions. A rug for under the snare, bass drum. Sometimes that's provided depending on the place, but that may be a thing that you're used to, they're used to for sound. You can argue about whether that's a particular need or not, but if that's something you want, and you're used to having one, make sure that you have that rolled up and with you. Judges' scores, and hopefully you have already ordered those, and hopefully they will arrive in time. I have heard that J.W. Pepper's back ordered on a lot of things, so hopefully that's going along. Or can you borrow those from somebody that's played the same thing before in the region? And are the measures numbered? And do you have them labeled on the outside? You can just write that in. Some people get really fancy and put them in nice folders, and that's great too. But do they have the name of your school, the level of your music, grade, whatever you're going in, the grade level of the student? So this is the symphonic band. That's the second band. It's grades 9 and 10. And they're playing they're in grade level 3. Information like that you've either written that on the outside, or you've got a little sticker or something that's on there with everything. So just in case they get placed in another pile back there in the back of the auditorium, that they'll get them back to you. And if you do run into a problem with you've got them ordered and it's 2 or 3 days before and it doesn't look like they're going to make it, you can contact either whoever you've ordered from, whether that be a local music store or J.W. Pepper, and they will provide you a letter saying, yeah, they've ordered them, they're back ordered, expect them on this date, which is usually about 2 weeks after you needed them in the first place. But you can get those, but you need to do, that will give you permission to photocopy them for that event. And you put that letter on every photocopied score that you have. And if you do have to do that, do it front and back, and if you can put it in a binder so it looks, a judge can go through it just like a normal score, instead of front page, flipping pages every 4 measures. That gets to be kind of awkward for them. So you want it look as good as you can under those circumstances. What goes on the bus first? That you may not even think about until it's too late. But if it's a school bus or buses, have you checked with your school bus drivers of what they will allow to be on there with the students? Hopefully, if they've signed up or they're assigned for a field trip with the band, they will be band friendly, and they won't be the ones that say, well, you can't bring that on here. But some instruments, it's kind of hard to fit through the door, especially in a case. So are they going to be able to carry those on the bus with the students there? You're going to need to get an additional bus. You need to get an additional vehicle, parents to transport the instruments. Who's going to drive it? That's the thing to think about, especially with school buses. If it's charter bus, well, larger instruments go under, but be careful with gig bags. Especially if it's really packed tight. Sometimes if students are doing things like that, they'll cram them in, they take it out, and there's a bell or a slide all dented up. And if there's not much under there, things tend to rattle around. So gotta be careful with those. And then what can and should go on the top of the bus, that you've communicated that to the students before you start. This is a great thing to have one of those adult chaperones supervise. And then or in high school, sometimes it would be my more responsible students to stand out there and make sure that goes on first. Don't put your piccolo on before the tuba goes. We got to take things in order. Again, I would always have students come in, sit down with their instrument in the case, music in hand, take roll. Everybody's here, take up the music, and then we would start boarding the bus section by section. So there was some order, and they weren't just out running out, because they will. They'll all want to get that good seat. Bus list. Roll call on the bus before you leave. Again, there'll be somebody that's at the vending machine getting that last bag of chips because they actually can't get to it, since they usually can't do it in class, and they just got to have it. And they were there, they were in the seats, and they put their stuff on, but they went back in for something. Why? But that the roll is called, and nobody's off that bus once the roll is called. Once you get there, wait until the director is giving instructions before leaving the bus and unloading, and check with the site. This a lot of times depends on the time of day and the site. Are the buses going to be able to unload, and then they're going to be where you can see them? Or are they going to be 5 blocks away in a lot that they have to park in, and then you have to contact them, let them know when you're finished? I know that's sort of a thing at MTSU. A lot of times you can drop the students off, they can put their stuff in a holding area, but then the bus is going to leave. So with that, what can you leave on the bus? Is there an inhaler that child's going to need? Make sure they take it with them. If they're going to have concessions around that particular area, then make sure they don't leave their wallet on the bus, because they're not going to have access to it until everything's over. Unloading instrument cases with them. They have to leave those on the bus. Ideally, there's a place to put everything that is semi-secure in any site, and then make sure the music gets off the bus too, especially if the bus leaves. And then on arrival, what are you going to do first? Are you going in, are you going to listen to some other groups? Or are you going to put your instruments up first and then listen to other groups? Or are you going to put your instruments up, and then you're going to eat. When are you going to eat? When you go to warm up, have they got time to see one group, two groups? That's why you get there, you look at the schedule, you see, well, they're running 30 minutes behind today. Okay, well, then you kind of adjust your schedule accordingly before you go back and tell the students what to do themselves. It's just so that you've got everything sort of planned out before they get away from you. Okay, so they've got their time, they report back to you, you're now in the warm-up room. So here we go. Distribute the music there. We have time to do that. That you've got some sort of procedures to do things. How to give the music out. Who's going to do that? When can you begin? Sometimes there's a student with you that will tell you that. Sometimes there's a person in the warm-up room that says you can start warming up now. Just make sure that they don't come in and just immediately start doing things on their own. It's also kind of a good time just to get everybody calmed down. Whether they're seasoned high school children or middle school children, this is the first time they've ever done anything away from school, and they're extremely excited. That everybody gets focused on what's about to happen. You can think, if you do things like breathing exercise, which I hope you do, you can do those before official time starts, because that's not playing. So you can get the music passed out, everybody's got everything they need. Let's take some deep breaths, kind of concentrate that way, get everybody focused. Will they have a music stand in the warm-up room? I know at White House Heritage, they do not. Sometimes, I can't remember about MTSU, I think it just depends. They seem to have more, but probably they won't. And if you want them to have a stand, then you'll need to put those on the bus and bring those with you. Of course, that's one other thing you've got to take care of. If you've never seen a child that's never put together a wire music stand, it's quite entertaining. So make sure that if that's something that is definite, you want, that you've taken care of. Which brings me to warm up. We always had a series of things that we did, and so even though it wasn't the same exact thing every day, if I said we're going to do long tones starting on this, we're going to do a lip slur, blah blah blah, we're going to do this scale, they knew what was going on. So they had the things in warm, but by that time of year, they kind of had them memorized, so they didn't really need anything in front of them. But if you've got a chorale that you've always got to play, make sure they've brought that with them. And just also realize if they don't have music stands, you're going to be looking at the top of their heads, and they probably won't be looking at you too much. After you've done just regular warm-up stuff, maybe start sections, start the beginning of some transitions. When things go a key change or from fast part to a slow part or back, maybe hit those little places. Talk about sections, sing in sections. Kind of avoid playing through everything. Let's say you don't want to leave your best performance in the warm-up room. We played it perfectly in there. Well, by now they're also tired, they can't play through it twice. And if you did it before you left school, well, that's really hard on the chops. So, I like to warm up, hit a few spots. Hey, remember when we get to letter, what's going to happen at letter R? Oh, that's when we're supposed to play softer. Great. And you just talk through some things. Tuning, whatever your procedure is to do that. That's a thing, good warm-up room thing to do. Partially into your warm-up time, they'll come and get your percussion or your setup crew people. With percussion, what are the big instruments that you don't normally tote around? What's the difference between the timpani there on stage and the ones you might have in your band room? You know, do yours have tuning gauges and these don't, or vice versa? The chimes, you know, some chimes, the pedal goes down when you hit it, and some you have to let the pedal off and you hit it, you dampen it with, we've experienced that before. In fact, an older set of chimes that I had at Hendersonville was the opposite of every set of chimes I've ever seen. And I remember hosting a festival there one time for one of the tour companies, and the child didn't realize that in one particular band, and he was beating the snot out of those chimes because they weren't ringing. He just kept hitting harder, and we were just in the back going, please don't damage them. And of course, it was kind of funny to the judges too, but it wasn't to that young man. He couldn't figure out why those chimes weren't ringing. So have them check things like that out. And the bass drum, is it on a stand like you're used to? Does it need more dampening than maybe yours? Maybe you're used to having a towel over it to take some of the ring off of yours at home. Is that needed on this one? Did you bring the towel? And again, the tuning of the timpani, that they know how to deal with that, especially if it's more a thing if the timpani that you normally use have tuning gauges on them, and they get to a place and they're not, and they have no idea how to, you know, do it by ear. So just some things to think about. Leave the room in an orderly manner. How do they go to the stage? You know, this row, so that they'll go on, and you know, try to go into the stage, see where the other groups come in, and so you can kind of plan that out while you're in the warm-up area, and you don't get people going out backwards so they're not crawling all over each other when you're trying to go on stage. And then it's time to get on stage. So how do they enter once they get there? I always like for them to remain standing, and that was not just a thing that I thought looked good. It was for a practical purpose to make sure that everybody had a chair. Everybody's got to stand. Then when all that's done, then they can be seated. And it's not just a bunch of scrambling around. And you want them to be in the same places that they're used to sitting, by the same people, if at all possible. For you, double check the stage, where the percussion. My timpani are supposed to be over there, but they're over here. Guys, let's just take time and move it. They should have already done that, but you know, make sure that you know where everything is, so that if you're used to giving a cymbal cue to that person over there, and now they're standing over there, but you don't see that until after you've given the cue and completely missed them and they've missed you. You know, where is everything back there in the back row, especially? Does everyone have a chair and stand? Here's the thing: should you play on stage before, and can you? Sometimes they say, well, we've got, you know, play a note or two. Careful with that. I just caution you, because even though they're not officially judging, anything you play gives away anything that's going to sound good or bad right there. So if you have a very young, not too wonderfully sounding oboe player, and they stick out of the ensemble, and you play a B flat scale, you've now just shown everybody in the back of the room, oh, wow, listen to that oboe. I guess I can comment on that when we officially start judging, because I've already heard a few things that need fixing. Same thing with tuning. You might give one pitch, but there's really rarely time, and nor do I think it's very effective to go through every kid again all the way around. Plus, they get kind of nervous, and if I'm back in the back of the room, I hear everyone's tone quality. Ooh, listen to those third clarinets. That's going to be fine. I can't wait till they start playing. You're giving away things before it even happens. So if you have a chance to play something on stage maybe just everybody warm up for 10 seconds on their own. Here's a tuning pitch, boom, let's go. That's how I prefer to do it. You know, other folks, they like to do everything right up there in front of everybody. I try to leave all the things I don't want people to hear and see in the band room and in the warm-up area. And then how does this stuff start? Is there an announcement? Yes. With MTSBOA, the host, there's always somebody there. It's really good they'll come on, they'll say at such and such time on your program is the such and such band under the direction of this person, and they'll be performing in grade whatever these selections, and they'll say them, and then they'll leave stage, and it's your time. But and that's a thing they've actually got a script now with the MTSBOA, so you'll get that. There were, and I've been other places where it's not always that way, and you're really not sure what to expect, but we've sort of standardized that, and that's one less stressful thing you have to worry about. So it's time to play. So take a breath, get good eye contact with the students, and just do it. It'll all be over before you know it. You know, we put so much time and preparation into these things, and you start and it's over like that. You're like, wow, I can't believe we just finished. And that's it. It doesn't take very long to play these things. Sight reading, go back and watch last week's with Andrew. There's so much information in there, but after performance on stage, you go to the sight reading room, follow all those procedures. And then when it's done, when do we eat? Are we going to go back in there and listen to other groups? We put our instruments back on the bus. We put them back in the cases, put them in the holding area. But make sure everything gets back to where it needs to be, just like when you left the band room. Do you have time, hopefully, to wait a little bit for your rating? Then you can go back in and let the students know as soon as you can. Like I say, if it's been a good day, they and you're probably going to, they're going to want to scream and celebrate. Great. If it's not, well, don't blame them. Say, well, we would have gotten one, but you trumpets, gosh. Think about how you might handle that. Early on in Jeff's career, I probably didn't handle some of those things too well. And I kind of sulked, and they pick up on that. So remember, this whole thing is a learning experience, and everybody, students, and you all find out things that need to be worked on and things that you've done well. So, if you set it up right, even if it's a 2 or a 3, you get the students, they may not feel great about it, but they won't be devastated. I've had students where we thought going into it that we'd be lucky to get a 1, and we got a 2, and they were thankful, and I was too. I was like, let's get on the bus before they change their mind. So just however you set it up is really how they'll respond. And then once you get back home, not a free-for-all. Unloading and dismissal procedures, make sure everything gets off the bus just as orderly as it went on the bus. And do they go back to class? Do they if you get back after school and they know that they were going to get back, and they've even called their parents before the bus got there, don't worry, there'll be that one kid, and they will be there an hour later just for you to stay. But what is your dismissal procedure when they get back? And enjoy it, and don't forget to breathe. And then the next day, or soon after, evaluate the performance, listen to comments. I suggest that you do that first, so that if there's anything, hopefully there's not anything inappropriate, but occasionally there might be a judge that they'll make comments about a particular, a kid that doesn't play well, and they'll just harp on them for 5 minutes. We try not to hire them at least more than once, but do listen to them first, and then that way you can kind of monitor them. I never listened to all of them in one day because that takes so long. 3 sets of judges comments, and if you listen to the sight reading judge, I mean, that eats up more than one class period. But we would do, maybe I would listen to them and listen to one day, another one the next day, just so we can see what kind of things they're talking about. They can never read the writing of a judge on a judge's sheet, so interpret that for them, and what all those categories mean. And then what did we learn from this? What did you learn as a conductor? What did you learn that you can do better, again, for the next concert, for the next trip, the next thing you do? How did this impact your group and you, so that the next time it'll be a better experience even than it was? I'll probably just put this whole document out on a couple of sites, just for folks to have. But we got any? It's just the 4 of us. We got any comments, questions, or anything? None from more. That's, well, I kind of took it from the moment you get to school to the moment you get back to school, and things that sometimes I've forgotten, and I've seen other people forget. So just trying to get all the little things in there done.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned about taking folders up. So I have folders that's been given to me by a music company, but a lot of my kids just use their own personal binder, and it contains all the music, either warm-ups or all the other concert literature. With our performance assessment being on March 2nd, you think that's still enough time to say, hey, we're going to shift to using these folders, so it's not brand new to them for CPA, and then they just keep those 2 pieces, and it just becomes a habit. You have this folder, it's labeled with your name, so that we can take up those folders like the day before we go to CPA.
I think that would make it easier for you and not as much to keep up with. And if something happened and that music did get left at the site, they put it under a chair, they thought they put it in the box it was supposed to, but then they're not missing every piece of music and every method book that they have, and they're just missing the 2 pieces and maybe a warm-up page and something like that. So yeah, the least you can carry, I think, the better. And yeah, I think you got good time now to say, hey, this is the way we're going to do it for this event. That's probably a good idea. Anything else?
One of the things that you didn't mention of things that you might want to bring along just in case are like reeds, maybe an extra ligature, stuff like that. That seems to be the things that, and a screwdriver and a mouthpiece puller. Because those seem to be, when things go wrong, exactly when you don't have your equipment with you.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. That's always a last minute thing, and that something will go wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, they never tell you that they need a reed until you're at the show. Yeah, and you look at it, it's a broomstick, and you're like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? A reed clipper is not even going to save this reed. Yeah, just have to take the wall test and get retired.
They won't tell you until, sometimes, not on a CPA thing, but it was actually at Mid-State, and this person, he'll tell you the same story. So I'm not, Justin Thomas, he's actually principal at elementary school now down the road here, but he was a band director up at Westmoreland for a few years and got into administration here in Sumner County. But when Justin was in high school, I mean, he still is a very fine musician. He was mid-state, all-state saxophone player. And we got to MTSU for mid-state. And after the rehearsal was over the first night, on that Thursday night, we were coming out in the lobby and his dad was there. And his dad wasn't with us as chaperone. I said, "What are you doing down here? Something wrong?" He said, "I'll let him tell you." And so, yeah, he had left his saxophone. This mid-state, all-state had left his saxophone in Hendersonville. He had gotten to MTSU, found somebody at the MTSU band that he knew, I don't know, another student from years past that loaned him a saxophone for the rehearsal, and Dad brought the other one back. So, yeah. I know I put it on the bus. I know I did. So it happens to the well, and I'll tell on another one. Chris Seeger, who's my colleague down here that's now at Hendersonville High School. Yeah, he forgot his trombone when we went to Washington, D.C. one time. And he came up and said, "What do you want me to do?" I said, "Well, stand back there in the back. You don't have an instrument. I'm sorry. Don't guess you get to play this concert, because where are we going to?" So yeah, it happens to the best ones. But just plan ahead. Yeah, equipment. Yeah, mouthpiece puller. Yeah, oil. Yeah, you got valve on, because that's that's when it'll freeze up. All that stuff will happen. Any other questions, words of wisdom? Montrell, you're really quiet. Okay. Yes, Malik.
After your first year, like I said, this is my first year going. Can you kind of talk about like the result of your first year and kind of how you reflected on that and what you implemented moving forward into your second, third years to make the experience better for the students, and kind of what you had to improve on, I guess, from what maybe the judges' comments or your own feedback to yourself?
Yeah, the first year was maybe not what some people would consider a success, but it was for us at that program. I remember when I took the job in June, kind of digging into not just marching band stuff, but I found, the box of festival tapes from the previous year, and they had gone in grade 6, and they had straight 3s across the page from everybody. And I found those, and I listened. I went, wow, this is well, what are we going to do from here? First of all, I didn't go in grade 6. I remember I went at 4 or 5, and we got pretty solid 2s all the way across. And that was considered a big victory, not just for me, but other directors that were familiar with the program were like, that's a big improvement. So congratulations. And we all let the kids know that, and they felt really good about that, which, some people go, can't believe it. Oh yeah, Jeff's gotten 2s and 3s and everything over the years. So I'm not one that, he always gets superior ratings. Nope, sure didn't. But yeah, that first year, so it was 2s all the way across, but it was, compared to what they had been doing, it was a success. So we just built on that. I think a more realistic one, though, more typical, was when I was teaching at Pope John Paul II, and we started the band there from scratch. So the first the first year we didn't go at all, building up things. And so we first went, first I had to explain to them what it was. And that, that took a while to, try to get them in the mindset. This isn't like a music performance assessment or concert festival is not like a football game or a basketball game. It's not a thing. They're going to evaluate us. Here's what they're going to be listening for. They're actually going to have the music in front of them, so you can't hide. They'll know that you're faking. So, we talked about all that. I don't think I ever got above with the band there. I never got in the 3 years that I took them. We either went in grade 2 or grade 3, and we got pretty much got 2s all the way. We might have gotten a 1. But every year, just with the way we set them up, the way we talked about them and what that event was, I think made a big difference. So they, when we came back and talked about, well, this is what they heard, this is what we've got, how can we make this better? I think it, especially there, it helped in the next couple of years. The second year was easier. And just like Laura reminding of, hey, don't forget the reads and stuff like that. The second year when you go, you'll even have students that'll say, hey, you forgot about the box for the percussion stuff. We got to have that. They'll start remembering things like that. That make your life a little bit easier too. I don't know whether that answered anything. I didn't have any.
I think one thing that we all need to remember is that hardly anybody's done festival over the last couple of years. So we have a ton of kids who have no idea what CPA is. We have a lot of kids who haven't sat in front of a conductor. Like I'm doing gestures and the kids are like, what does that even mean? And I'm like, well, I'm glad you asked. Now that I'm not going a 1 and a 2 and you know what to do, and I'm doing this, all of a sudden they're like, what am I supposed to do with that? Because they're watching me and they're like, then they have to think about it and then respond. And so there's, I think it's great. I'm looking at what, the grade levels that everybody's going in and the music, that they're trying to tackle. But boy, oh boy, this is a new frontier for all of us people who are experienced in teaching band, to have so many really genuinely inexperienced kids that even if they might know about playing an instrument, they don't know about CPA. And so we have to tell them everything.
You're not I'm glad you said that. Somebody else mentioned something very similar to me a couple weeks ago, that as far as students responding to a conductor, they said, and it was a middle school director said that kid finally, like a light bulb went on, and said, hey, the stuff you're doing kind of like helps me keep up. Yeah, but they didn't get that because they haven't. It's a little different from being on the little box in the screen. That was a total, things like that we take for granted that they just have not experienced. I mean, no middle school kid's been to this stuff before. And you look at your high school groups, well, for us in Sumner, the kids that are seniors did get to go, but if you were some of the kids in Metro that are seniors probably didn't, because that same week that we had it, that's either COVID, and that was a tornado also. So a lot of they canceled the last 2 days of CPA that year. We got to go on the first day, but anybody that was scheduled on Thursday or Friday, they didn't get to go at all. So no one in their groups has ever been, and that's in the high school. So yeah. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, this will be a whole new world for pretty much everybody. Yeah, so the more little things that we can explain to them, even the more you can tell them about what it might be like, the better it'll probably be, because this will be a uncharted territory for everybody. Yeah. Good point. Any yes.
Yeah. So when I went to CPA, you hit it right on the head regarding percussion, to make sure the percussion is state, exactly where you want it. So my second year going to CPA, well, rather my first year, I was the first time going. I didn't know if I could move anything until afterwards, because I had my percussion, they were all the way in the back and my winds were all the way in the front, and there was like a big huge gap there. Until afterwards, Miss Joanne Hood, she came to me later, was like, yeah, you can move your percussion as far as you want. You can move it closer, you can move it wherever you want to put it. So I just want to say, like, so any first time, banner that's going, yes, you can move your percussion equipment, you can move your stage, your chairs, whatever that you want to make your students comfortable.
Yeah, and you bring up, and it depends on where we had been up here to the stage at White House Heritage, and plus both groups I had, if you've got a group up there that's above 40 students, and symphonic band that I had, grades 10 through 12, was sometimes like 95. It was just, if we could get them in the wings, wherever, that was the biggest challenge. But bigger groups up there don't have some issues. If you're at MTSU, that's an interesting stage to play on sometimes. It's like, do I want them behind the what do you call it, Presidium? Do I want the curtains open? Do I want the curtains closed? How about the curtains in the back? They've got all those things that they can manipulate, and they'll ask you, how do you want them? I don't know. I haven't ever played on this stage with this band. I don't know. Sometimes, the larger groups, the sound will meld together a little bit in an auditorium better than smaller groups. That I have had smaller groups when I was taking JP2 on stage at White House Heritage, and it can be scary with a small group. There are pockets of, I can't hear that person playing, and I'm asking them for more, and then I get the judges tape back, and it was extremely loud, but I swear I couldn't hear them from where I was, and they're back there just maxing out. But it's coming through out there really well. So there's, the size of the group can be a factor on any stage. Of course, that's some things that when I've judged that is a factor, but sometimes, it's like, well, is that just a stage problem, or is that ensemble's problem? Hopefully that's something that somebody can actually figure out that's back there listening. But sometimes, and I've gotten judges tapes back before. Of course, they sit this side, in the middle, and on this side, and depending on the direction of, I hear too much French horn, I don't hear enough French horn, that's great balance. So, but you can move stuff. Do you feel like you need to move the whole band up a little bit, or push them back behind that part of the curtain? That can be done, even if you get out there and you got people two inches from the side, and you got room to move them back. You want to do, or flatten them out, whatever you think you need to do. Take time to do that, to make sure it's like you want it before you start to play.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. It's good to go in, if not just have the kids listen, but that you listen to a group or two before you say, wow, that seems to be really live on that side of the room. That live. I did have percussionists, even though they did forget their sticks, but some guys that were really good, and it's like, well, what do you hear on that bass drum? It seems to be a lot more live than ours. So I think we're going to need to do this. And they were already picking up on stuff like that when they would go in to listen. So that, I think that's a good point too.
Yeah.
Rontrell, you're unmuted, or are you there, man?
Oh yeah, that's it. Sorry.
No, I thought maybe you were going to ask something or had something to say. Get that dog going. Okay.
Yeah.
You'll wake mine up here. All right. Well, I don't have anything else unless anybody's got any other questions. And of course, if you do, just drop me a line. If I don't know the answer, I'll try to find it out for you and get you to the right person. Good?
Yeah. Thank
So
you
where
so
are
much.
these?
Oh.
Where are these sessions posted? Are they posted to the Facebook page, or they shared to a certain group?
They're on the ASBDA Facebook page for Tennessee. I still haven't gotten them to a YouTube there is a place we will put them on YouTube eventually, but haven't gotten that. I was waiting till this one's finished before I got them to Carol Grooms to get that done. She knows where to put them. Apparently there's a national page that we can archive all that stuff. All right. Well, folks, thank you for being here. Good luck with everything. Laura, I'll see you in a couple weeks. Looking forward to that.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah. All right.